Not long before we started ACCESS, George and I were married. We had a geriatric romance.
Well, I guess we fell in love, I suppose you could say that.
So just before we started ACCESS, about 2 years before we were married, which changed our lives a lot.
Well, I was perfectly happy to go to Hawaii in the winter and come and live in this nice house that we're living in now in the summer.
We did that for 1 year and then spent less time the next winter. And I was not happy because there wasn't enough to do that seemed worthwhile to me. We read a book called Save 3 Lives, which was written by Robert Rodale, who is a gardener. Of course, we weren't in the gardening business, but we were intrigued about saving 3 lives.
So we looked around, and we were very lucky. We fell into chess, and it was clear that they were doing what we were interested in.
It just seemed the right thing for us, and we managed to put words together so that it turned out to be the African Canadian Continuing Education Society, or ACCESS.
We incorporated a society and immediately got busy and tried to get the right to give tax receipts, which takes time. It took time even then. But in the meantime, we worked right hand in glove with chess, and we went across to their operation in Kenya and carried on ourselves.
So that was all accomplished in October, and in February we first went to Kenya. We were aghast at the poverty that we saw.
I hadn't been to Africa before. We went to Nairobi, and of course it's a city just like any other almost. Stacks of people and everything, but still it's a city. Then we went out to Kakamega, and that's a different story. You're out in the country, and people live in mud huts. Some of them had tin roofs. Practically no one had shoes. People were poor. Of course, everyone was overjoyed to see us because we were helping them. But it's a real inspiration to try to do more.
It was exciting to meet students who knew what we were there for and were so anxious to get a scholarship. They knew that they could not keep on going to school, could not get to university without help. And us meeting these fine young people, the ones we were looking at were very needy people, but also very bright. They had, under very poor circumstances, had managed to complete their secondary school, and now were ready for help from us.
I think we have to say it was exciting that we saw that we could help people.
It was so wonderful to see what we could do really to save 3 lives. After a couple of years, we actually had a check that came from someone that we didn't even know. And that was kind of an aha moment. Before that, it had all been friends and relatives. But now word was going further about what we were doing.
We found that there were kids that weren't going to school at all. They just didn't go to school. There weren't schools for them.
To me, it was quite horrible to think of children not even being able to learn to read. I had been a primary teacher during my career, and I know that if children can read, the door is open for them. There were other needs in the community, needs for adult education.
We started little schools. We had young people who had graduated from high school were our first teachers, and You wouldn't believe the schools that we had. They're made of sticks and mud. If you put sticks together and put mud on it, why, you've got a building. Then we managed to get help from CETA, the Canadian government, and so we had genuine money. I think we had $60,000 the first year, so we could get busy and build regular schools. And these were schools made of cement blocks, and as time went on, I think we built 7 schools. One of the highlights I can remember is having a community meeting when they opened one of the schools, and we all marched up to this building, which was a very nice building, and they were singing within the building. It gives me shivers to think about it now, the feeling that we had, that here was this new beautiful school that we had been instrumental in getting going.
Eventually the government took the management of the schools, paying the teachers, and so gradually there was less need in the area where we were for primary education.
You see that there are so many ways that you can help people. It's very hard to stick on what your point is, that is to provide education for people.
We very easily got ourselves into too many things and had to cut back a bit. We did also find out that there was a horrible infestation of jiggers. And so we do have a project eliminating jiggers in that area of Kenya. We have come back to spending more of our time and effort and funding on scholarships and making education the very basis of what we do.
The greatest success would be the cadre of graduates that we have. I think there are over 3,000 now. These are people that we've assisted to graduate and to go out in the society. And these people, some of them, have gotten together and formed a society there. And they are doing what we were doing. The Kenyans are contributing and helping other people to go to school. That might not sound much, but if you're in Kenya, you have an obligation to look after your family and your extended family. But to find an obligation to look after strangers, you just don't find that. But we have a society now that's doing that, and it's getting more and stronger, and I think that's the biggest legacy of ACCES.
This is sustainability. That is one of the things that gives us the greatest satisfaction.